In the year 331 BC, an event of monumental importance unfolded on the dusty plains near the village of Gaugamela. Here, two of antiquity's most formidable powers collided: the mighty Achaemenid Empire of Persia under King Darius III, and the upstart Macedonian force led by the young and ambitious Alexander the Great. This was not merely a clash of armies, but a turning point in world history, where the balance of power shifted from east to west. Prelude to the battle. Following his dramatic victories in the Levant and Egypt, Alexander had no intention of halting his momentum. The Macedonian campaign in Egypt had gone almost unopposed. The satrap, or governor, of Egypt offered no resistance, likely due to the region's resentment toward Persian rule. To the Egyptians, Alexander was not just a conqueror, but a liberator, a symbolic restorer of native pride. After consolidating power in Egypt, Alexander took time to reorganize and resupply his army in the fertile Nile Valley. The respite allowed his soldiers to regain their strength after the grueling siege of Tyre and the conquest of Gaza. But rest was merely the calm before a storm. Alexander had greater ambitions. The heart of the Persian Empire awaited. Back in Persia, Darius II was not idle. After his earlier defeat at the Battle of Issus in 333 BC, he realized that brute military might alone would not suffice against the cunning Macedonian. Darius tried diplomacy instead, offering generous terms to Alexander to cease his advance. But Alexander rejected these overtures 3 times. His goal was not peace, it was conquest. Marching into Mesopotamia. By the spring of 331 BC, Alexander's meticulously prepared army set out from Egypt, retracing their steps through Phoenicia before heading inland. Logistical precision played a critical role in Alexander's success. His ability to maintain an effective fighting force far from home was a testament to his leadership and planning. Whenever possible, he stuck to coastal routes to utilize naval supply lines. However, as the army pushed further inland, alternate routes became necessary. Darius, informed by his scouts, expected Alexander to march along the Euphrates River directly toward Babylon. In response, he ordered the countryside along the river to be scorched, destroying supplies and disrupting potential staging grounds. But Alexander, ever the strategist, avoided this trap. He opted for a longer northern route that passed through more rural terrain areas rich in resources and less defended. Realizing the change in Alexander's course, Darius quickly moved northward from Babylon, traveling along the Tigris River with the aim of intercepting the Macedonian force. He placed the satrap of Babylon, Mezaius, in charge of defending the river crossings and disrupting Alexander's supply lines. Despite these efforts, the Macedonians managed to cross the Tigris in mid-September without serious opposition. With the crossing complete, Alexander moved swiftly eastward. Darius, anticipating an imminent encounter, chose to make his stand on a vast open plain near the village of Gaugamela, terrain that favored his larger cavalry-heavy army. Meanwhile, Alexander's forces captured Persian scouts and learned of Darius' exact location, just 30 kilometers away. Tactical positioning and psychological warfare. As the Macedonian army approached, they established camp behind a hill about 10 kilometers from the Persian positions. This maneuver offered a clear advantage. From this vantage point, Alexander could survey Darius's camp and the deployment of his troops. Moreover, the hill provided a strong defensive position in case of a Persian surprise attack. The Persians, aware of Alexander's proximity, were on edge. Mezaius had failed to prevent the Macedonians from taking the high ground. And now Darius's men were forced to remain battle-ready through the night, expecting an attack that never came. This constant tension wore on their morale and readiness. On the Macedonian side, the atmosphere was vastly different. Alexander used the time wisely, ensuring his men were rested, well-fed, and mentally prepared for the showdown. According to some accounts, his second-in-command, Parmenion, advised launching a night attack to catch the Persians off guard. Alexander, however, declined, deeming it too risky. He preferred to fight in broad daylight, confident in his army's discipline and maneuverability. The battlefield unfolds. At dawn on October 1st, the Persian forces were already in formation. Darius had gathered a colossal army, possibly over 100,000 strong. At the center stood the elite immortals and a contingent of seasoned Greek mercenaries. The flanks were reinforced with more than 30,000 cavalry drawn from across the empire's satrapies. Scythe chariots, designed to tear through infantry lines, were positioned for shock assaults. Even war elephants were present, though it is doubtful they played a significant role. Darius divided command between himself and two trusted generals, Mazaeus and Bessus. The vastness of the Persian army made centralized control challenging, and delegation was necessary. Alexander's force, in contrast, was considerably smaller, around 40,000 infantry and 7,000 cavalry. He deployed his army in a slanted line, with the right flank slightly forward, directly opposing the Persian center. The phalanx formed the backbone of the formation, supported by hypaspists, elite infantry skilled in both offense and defense. Cavalry units were stationed on both wings, the Thessalians on the left, and the elite companion cavalry under Alexander's command on the right. To counter the risk of encirclement, Alexander curved both flanks slightly backward and maintained a flexible second line composed of Thracian and Illyrian troops. The command structure was once again split. Alexander led the right, Parmenion the left. Feint, trap, and strike. As the battle commenced, Alexander initiated a rightward movement, attempting to extend his flank and draw Persian forces out of their prepared positions. Darius responded by stretching his own left flank to mirror the maneuver, anxious to keep Alexander within the level terrain optimized for chariot warfare. The first major engagement occurred on Alexander's far right, where Persian cavalry launched a full-scale assault. Fierce hand-to-hand combat ensued. Despite being pushed hard, the Macedonian cavalry gradually gained the upper hand, though they suffered significant losses. To exploit the perceived vulnerability, Darius ordered his side chariots to charge at the Macedonian center. The Macedonian infantry, however, had rehearsed for this. As the chariots approached, they opened their ranks, allowing the chariots to pass harmlessly through while bombarding them with javelins. Meanwhile, on the left flank, Mazaeus led a ferocious charge against Parmenion's forces. The Persian cavalry succeeded in pushing the Macedonians back, threatening to envelop the flank. Parmenion, experienced but under immense pressure, held his ground with great difficulty. Darius then noticed a gap forming in the Macedonian line between Alexander and Parmenion. Sensing an opportunity, he sent his elite immortals to exploit the breach. But this was precisely what Alexander had hoped for. As the Persians surged forward into the gap, they inadvertently exposed their own center. Seizing the moment, Alexander led a thunderous charge with the companion cavalry straight into the heart of the Persian formation. The attack struck Darius's personal guard with devastating force, breaking their lines. Collapse and pursuit. Chaos erupted in the Persian center. Despite reinforcements from the second line, the momentum of Alexander's cavalry was unstoppable. Seeing his army falter and facing imminent capture or death, Darius fled the battlefield just as he had done at Issus. Alexander gave chase but soon pulled back, recognizing the danger to Parmenion, embattled left. He turned his forces and rode to reinforce his comrade. The arrival of Alexander's contingent reinvigorated the Macedonian left, leading to a counterattack that finally broke Mazaeus' assault. The remaining Persian forces panicked and fled. Although Darius managed to escape once again, his credibility and authority were shattered. Alexander's triumph at Gaugamela did not merely represent a battlefield victory. It signaled the collapse of the Persian military machine. Aftermath and legacy. With Darius in retreat and his army broken, Alexander now held the keys to the Persian heartland. Babylon, Susa, and eventually Persepolis, the ceremonial capital, fell into his hands in quick succession. The centuries-old Achaemenid Empire, once the most powerful state in the world, was effectively finished. The Battle of Gaugamela was a masterpiece of military strategy and tactical execution. Alexander demonstrated not only courage, but an extraordinary ability to manipulate the battlefield. His understanding of terrain, his use of deception, and his flexible command structure allowed a smaller, more disciplined army to defeat a numerically superior force. But this victory did not satisfy Alexander's ambitions. Persia was only a stepping stone. With the east now open, his eyes turned toward the far reaches of the known world. India waited. The battle near Gaugamela didn't just change borders. It reshaped the ancient world and set the stage for a new cultural synthesis that would echo through centuries. The age of Hellenism had begun. And that wraps up the epic tale of the Battle of Gaugamela, a defining moment in Alexander the Great's legendary conquest. If you enjoyed this deep dive into classical history and want to see more incredible stories from the ancient past, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.